Welcome, Book Mint listeners. Today, we're diving into a book that has profoundly shifted perspectives on personal finance and life itself. Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money, Timeless Lessons on Wealth, Greed, and Happiness. This isn't your typical dry finance book. Instead, Housel takes us on a captivating journey through human behavior, history, and the often irrational ways we interact with money. If you've ever wondered why some smart people make poor financial decisions, or how seemingly ordinary individuals build immense wealth, then this podcast is for you. We'll explore the timeless lessons that can help you achieve financial peace and a richer, happier life. So, sit back, relax, and let's unlock the secrets to a better relationship with money. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Book Mint for more insightful summaries. Chapter 1. No One's Crazy. Housel begins by asserting that our financial decisions, however irrational they may seem to others, make perfect sense to us given our unique experiences and perspectives. We are all products of our environment, our upbringing, our generation, and the economic conditions we've lived through. Someone who grew up in poverty will view risk and saving very differently from someone who grew up with abundance. A person who experienced the Great Depression firsthand will likely be more risk-averse than someone who has only known bull markets. The key takeaway here is empathy. Instead of judging others' financial choices, we should strive to understand the underlying psychological and historical factors that shaped them. This chapter encourages us to recognize that our own financial truths are not universal, and that different people operating with different information and emotional baggage will naturally arrive at different conclusions. This understanding is crucial for both personal financial planning and for comprehending the broader economic landscape. It reminds us that there isn't a single right way to handle money. Rather, there are countless approaches, each valid within its own context. This realization helps to remove the stigma and shame often associated with financial struggles, promoting a more compassionate and realistic view of human financial behavior. Chapter 2. Luck and Risk. This chapter explores the powerful, often unacknowledged roles of luck and risk in financial success and failure. Housel argues that extreme outcomes, both good and bad, are often more attributable to luck and risk than to pure skill or incompetence. Bill Gates' success, for example, involved not just his genius, but also the stroke of luck that he attended one of the few high schools in the world with a computer. Similarly, someone's financial ruin might be due to an unforeseen economic downturn or a health crisis, not necessarily poor planning. The central message is to be humble when things go well and compassionate when they go poorly. We tend to overemphasize individual agency and underestimate the probabilistic nature of life. Recognizing the influence of luck means being less judgmental of others and more aware of the randomness in our own journeys. It encourages us to focus on what we can control, our effort, our learning, our savings rate, while acknowledging that a significant portion of outcomes lies outside our direct influence. This perspective fosters a more balanced view of success and failure, moving away from a purely meritocratic or blame-oriented understanding. Understanding luck and risk helps us cultivate resilience, preparing us for the inevitable ups and downs without taking all the credit for success or all the blame for setbacks. Chapter 3. Never Enough. Housel delves into the dangerous trap of never enough, the insatiable desire for more, even when one already has plenty. He illustrates this with stories of individuals who achieved immense wealth but lost it or their freedom by continuing to chase higher returns or greater status, often through illicit means. The tragic downfall of Rajat Gupta, a highly respected businessman who went to prison for insider trading despite being incredibly wealthy, serves as a poignant example. The core lesson is that enough is not an amount, it's a feeling. The hardest financial skill is knowing when to stop moving the goalposts. Comparison with others, especially in the age of social media, fuels this perpetual discontent. The desire for more can lead to taking excessive risks, sacrificing relationships, and ultimately undermining the very happiness one sought to achieve. Housel emphasizes that the greatest financial asset is often the ability to walk away from a deal, to resist the urge for just a little more. Defining enough is crucial for contentment and avoiding self-destructive behaviors. It's about understanding what truly brings satisfaction and recognizing that beyond a certain point, more money does not equate to more happiness. This chapter encourages introspection about our true values and what constitutes a truly rich life, independent of monetary accumulation. Chapter 4. Confounding Compounding. This chapter highlights the extraordinary power of compounding, often underestimated because it appears so insignificant in its early stages. Housel uses Warren Buffett's wealth as a prime example. While Buffett is undeniably a brilliant investor, a significant portion of his net worth comes from the sheer longevity of his investing career, allowing compounding to work its magic over decades. The lesson is simple but profound. Good investing is not necessarily about earning the highest returns, but about earning consistently good returns for a very long time. Consistency and patience are far more important than intensity or short-term spectacular gains. The magic of compounding doesn't require complex strategies or market timing. It requires discipline, time, and the avoidance of major setbacks that interrupt the compounding process. This chapter emphasizes the importance of starting early, saving regularly, and letting time do the heavy lifting. It's about planting a seed and nurturing it, rather than trying to force it to grow overnight. Understanding compounding shifts our focus from quick wins to long-term growth, making seemingly small contributions incredibly powerful over time. This foundational concept underpins much of sound financial planning and wealth accumulation.
Chapter 5. Getting Wealthy versus Staying Wealthy. Housel distinguishes between the skills required to accumulate wealth and those needed to preserve it. Getting wealthy often involves taking risks, being optimistic, and hustling. Staying wealthy, however, demands the opposite, a combination of paranoia, humility, and frugality. He points out that many people who become rich lose it because they fail to adapt to this shift. They continue to take the same risks that got them wealthy, or they become overconfident and extravagant. The crucial insight is that the ability to survive is paramount. Survival is the single highest priority, Housel writes. This means having a margin of safety, being resilient to economic shocks, and understanding that things will inevitably go wrong. Wealth preservation is about recognizing that capital is often most valuable during a crisis, allowing you to seize opportunities or simply weather the storm. It's about building a fortress around your assets, not just accumulating them. This chapter advocates for diversification, maintaining cash reserves, and avoiding unnecessary risks, even when the market seems to be booming. It's a call for prudence and a long-term perspective, ensuring that the wealth built through hard work and good decisions isn't squandered by hubris or unforeseen events. The ability to stay in the game is often the greatest determinant of ultimate success. Chapter 6. Tails You Win. This chapter highlights the outsized impact of tail events, rare, extreme occurrences on financial outcomes. Housel argues that in investing, a few big winners often drive the majority of returns, while most investments are mediocre or even losers. He uses venture capital as an example, where one or two successful investments can compensate for dozens of failures. Similarly, in the stock market, a small percentage of companies account for the vast majority of overall market gains. The implication is that success doesn't require being right most of the time. It requires being patient enough to let the tail events play out. Many investors give up too soon on good ideas because they haven't seen immediate returns, missing out on the compounding effect of the few truly great performers. This concept encourages a broad, diversified approach to investing, rather than trying to pick individual winners with precision. It suggests that our investment strategy should be robust enough to handle many failures, knowing that the significant gains will come from a select few. The key is to be present for the long run, allowing the probabilistic nature of markets to work in our favor. Understanding tails you win helps investors avoid the trap of constantly trying to optimize for individual successes and instead embrace a strategy that allows for the eventual emergence of significant outperformers. Chapter 7. Freedom. Housel posits that the greatest intrinsic value of money is its ability to buy freedom and control over one's time. This isn't about luxury cars or mansions. It's about the ability to wake up and decide what you want to do with your day, free from financial constraints or the dictates of others. The ultimate goal of financial independence, according to Housel, is autonomy. He argues that having control over your time is a universal currency that contributes more to happiness than material possessions. The ability to choose your work, your schedule, and your lifestyle is invaluable. This chapter redefines wealth, moving it beyond mere accumulation to a tool that facilitates a life of purpose and personal choice. It encourages readers to think about what they truly want their money to do for them, and often the answer boils down to greater control and flexibility. This perspective can help reorient financial goals, prioritizing experiences and time over purely material gains. It's a powerful reminder that money is a means to an end, and that end is often the ability to live life on your own terms. Chapter 8. Man in the Car Paradox. This chapter addresses the common human desire to be admired for one's wealth and the often misguided ways we try to achieve it. Housel highlights the man in the car paradox. When you see someone driving a fancy car, you rarely think, wow, that person is cool. Instead, you think, wow, I would look cool in that car. The paradox is that people often buy luxury items to signal their success to others, but those others are usually too engrossed in their own desires and aspirations to truly notice or care. They're fantasizing about themselves owning that item, not genuinely admiring the current owner. True wealth, Housel argues, is often invisible. It's the savings account, the investments, the financial freedom that provides a comfortable, stress-free life, not the flashy consumer goods. This chapter encourages readers to distinguish between real wealth and performative wealth. It's a call to find contentment in what you have and what you can do, rather than constantly seeking external validation through material possessions. The most powerful financial flex is often the one no one sees. Chapter 9. Wealth is what you don't see. Building on the previous chapter, Housel explicitly states that wealth is what you don't see. It's the money that hasn't been spent, the assets that are quietly compounding, the financial buffer that provides security. This is in contrast to rich, which is often expressed through visible consumption. Someone who drives an expensive car might be rich in terms of income or assets, but they may also have significant debt and limited true wealth. The point is that acting rich and being wealthy are often opposing forces. Spending money to show people how much money you have is the fastest way to have less money. True wealth is built through frugality, saving and investing, often in ways that are invisible to the outside world. This chapter reinforces the idea that true financial security and freedom come from accumulating assets, not liabilities dressed up as status symbols. This chapter encourages a shift in mindset from outward appearances to inward financial strength. This distinction is vital for anyone aspiring to long-term financial stability and independence, urging them to prioritize saving and investing over conspicuous consumption. Chapter 10. Save money. This chapter makes a direct and powerful case for saving money, emphasizing its simplicity and effectiveness as a financial tool. Housel argues that the ability to save is not dependent on your income level, but on your spending habits and expectations. It's less about how much you earn and more about your ability to live below your means. Saving, he explains, is the one area of finance where you have complete control. You can't control market returns, inflation, or your job security, but you can control how much you choose to save. A high savings rate provides flexibility, options, and a margin of safety against life's uncertainties. It also doesn't require a high IQ or a sophisticated understanding of complex financial instruments. Furthermore, Housel points out that the true value of saving is often underestimated because it provides an unquantifiable benefit: freedom and flexibility. It's the emergency fund, the down payment, the retirement nest egg. This chapter champions the simple, often overlooked power of consistent saving as the bedrock of financial security and future optionality, empowering individuals to take control of their financial destiny regardless of their current income.
Chapter 11. Reasonable, Rational. Housel argues that in finance, being reasonable is often more effective than being strictly rational. While academic economics often assumes rational actors making optimal decisions, human beings are emotional creatures. Attempting to always be perfectly rational can be exhausting and ultimately counterproductive. Being reasonable means making decisions that you can stick with for the long term, even if they aren't mathematically optimal in every single instance. For example, investing in an index fund and holding it for decades might not generate the absolute highest returns compared to a highly aggressive, expertly timed portfolio, but it's a reasonable strategy that most people can maintain through market ups and downs. A reasonable approach acknowledges human biases and limitations, building in buffers and accepting good enough over perfect. This chapter advocates for simplicity, consistency, and emotional resilience over complex, theoretically optimal strategies that are impossible to execute consistently in the real world. It's about finding a financial approach that aligns with your psychology rather than fighting against it. Chapter 16, You and Me. Housel explores the differing financial goals and time horizons of various market participants and how this creates confusion and misunderstanding. He notes that individual investors, short-term traders, long-term institutions, and venture capitalists all operate with different objectives and timeframes. What makes sense for a day trader, e.g. rapid buying and selling, is utterly irrational for a retirement saver. The problem arises when people try to play different games simultaneously or adopt strategies suited for another player's game. For example, an individual saving for retirement might panic during a short-term market dip because they are influenced by news cycles focused on short-term market movements, a game they shouldn't be playing. The lesson is to clearly define your own financial goals and time horizon, and then stick to a strategy that aligns with them. Don't be swayed by what others are doing, especially if their goals are fundamentally different from yours. This chapter encourages a focused, individualized approach to financial planning, emphasizing the importance of staying in your own lane and avoiding the temptation to emulate others whose contexts differ wildly from your own. Chapter 17, The Seduction of Pessimism. This chapter delves into why pessimism often sounds smarter and more convincing than optimism, especially in finance. Housel explains that dire warnings and predictions of collapse tend to garner more attention and seem more intellectually rigorous. Pessimism often appears as a sober, realistic assessment, while optimism can be dismissed as naive. However, Housel points out that historically, over the long run, optimism has been the more rational stance when it comes to the economy and markets. Human ingenuity, adaptability, and the drive for progress consistently overcome setbacks. While short-term crises are inevitable, the long-term trend of human progress and wealth creation has been upward. The problem with constant pessimism is that it can lead to inaction, missed opportunities, and a failure to participate in the long-term growth of the economy. This chapter encourages a balanced perspective, acknowledging risks, but also recognizing the persistent power of human problem-solving and innovation. It's a reminder that while things can always go wrong, betting against human progress over the very long term has generally been a losing proposition. Chapter 18, When You'll Believe Anything. Housel examines how our beliefs about money, the economy, and investing are heavily influenced by self-interest, personal experiences, and the desire to maintain a coherent worldview. We tend to gravitate towards information and narratives that confirm what we already want to believe, or that justify our past actions. For instance, if you've invested heavily in a particular sector, you're more likely to believe positive news about it and dismiss negative reports. This chapter highlights the pervasive nature of cognitive biases in financial decision-making. We often construct narratives to make sense of the world, and these narratives can be deeply flawed if they are driven by emotion or a need to protect our egos. The lesson is to be aware of our own biases, to challenge our assumptions, and to actively seek out diverse perspectives. It's about understanding that our perceptions are not always objective reality, and that different people, coming from different places, will have fundamentally different but equally valid perspectives on financial truths. This self-awareness is crucial for making more objective and effective financial decisions. Chapter 19, All Together Now. In this concluding chapter, Housel brings together the core lessons of the book, synthesizing them into a coherent philosophy of money. He reiterates that successful financial planning is less about mathematical prowess and more about managing one's own psychology. It's about humility, recognizing the role of luck, understanding the power of compounding, defining enough, prioritizing flexibility and freedom, and building in a margin of safety. The overarching message is that personal finance is personal. There's no single right answer, and what works for one person may not work for another. The best financial plan is the one you can stick with for the long term, one that aligns with your values, your temperament, and your evolving life goals. It's about finding contentment, managing risk, and understanding that the greatest returns often come from simply staying in the game and allowing time to work its magic. This chapter serves as a powerful reminder that mastering money is fundamentally about mastering oneself. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money. This book truly offers timeless lessons that transcend market cycles and economic theories, focusing instead on the human element of finance. From understanding that no one's crazy to recognizing the immense power of compounding and the true value of freedom, Housel provides a framework for a more thoughtful, resilient, and ultimately happier financial life. We've learned that wealth isn't just about what you earn, but what you keep, that true success often comes from surviving and staying in the game, and that defining enough is perhaps the most crucial skill of all. If you found these insights as valuable as we did, please make sure to like this podcast, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to Bookmint for more summaries of transformative books. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep mastering your own psychology of money.